Hello friends, here we are, The Medium's Harvest. The Medium's Harvest by Emmanuel through Xavier is a book that is coming about in English as we speak, and it's a translation from the book in Portuguese, Seara dos Médiuns. That book is a study on the Medium's book by Kardec. So we want to study more about mediumship. We want to understand more ourselves. We want to work mediumistically. So the Medium's Harvest brings us directions and teaches us a new understanding of mediumship. The Medium's book, which is the reason why the Medium's Harvest, the other book, was written in tribute to the publishing of the Medium's book by Kardec. It contains 32 chapters. It's a guide. It says here, it's a guide. That's the subtitle. Manual for Mediums or Evokers. So if I want to practice mediumship, it's inevitable that I need to study this. Oh no, but I know it all. Oh, mamma mia. It's like people saying, I know how to read and write, I don't need to go to school anymore. No, we need to develop another step and another step. As Mentor Joseph and the other spirit mentors of the Spirit Side of Virginia said yesterday, there's always another level. Level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. So we're invited to deepen our levels of understanding. Mediumship is this human ability to be educated, and to be educated in a group. You may be asking, but Vanessa, why are you there by yourself? No, I'm not alone. You are together, we're together. This is a huge group. And we have good spirits, spirits that are teaching, spirits that are learning, with all of us, you and I. Even if you watch it on demand, you're not alone either. And in our practice, we always have teams, we have groups. It's been much more than 20 years that we work in spiritist groups in the US. Besides Brazil, my whole life. So in a group, we study, we progress, we move forward faster. Today, chapter 23 of the Medium's Harvest is titled Obsessors. And Emmanuel is going to break down item 249 of the Medium's book. So let us together, okay? I have the Medium's book here. Chapter 23 is about obsession. So it's not by chance that chapter 23 of the Medium's Harvest matches the number. Because to be mediums, we need to read chapter 23 of the Medium's book and pay close attention. Item 249 talks about how to combat obsession, disobsession. Kardec begins by saying, the means of combating obsession vary depending on the characteristics in which it appears. There is no real danger for all mediums who are good and convinced that they are dealing with a deceiving spirit, which is the case in simple obsession. So he talks about obsession in mediumship. He moves that into another paragraph, and we have here the following as well. When we detect that there is obsession, he says we should suspend some forms of communication to deal and talk to the spirit. Okay, so he talks about counseling, guiding that spirit morally. It's what we call nowadays spirit counseling. Let's go now to the medium's harvest and see how Emmanuel makes us feel that scripture and makes us go another level. It's fascinating. He says, on a meeting that happened with Chico Xavier and others on March 21st, 1960, based on that item 249 of the medium's book, Emmanuel says, obsessor, as correctly defined, means he who disturbs. He who disturbs. Moreover, he who disturbs is almost always someone with whom we have been deeply involved in our error-filled paths, coming back against us when we are looking for necessary rectification. In such individuals' behavior, the ill feeling with which it pursues us is like the wine of applause after it has turned into the vinegar of criticism. This is why constant patience is necessary for them to change their attitudes. Taking into consideration, therefore, that the present continues the past, we find reincarnated obsessors among our closest ties. Reincarnated obsessors. Frequently, they wear labels with very pretty names. They wear carnal clothes and are called father or mother, husband or wife, children or frequent companions who share the family hearth. On some occasions, obsessors rise before others as saints, while for us, they are precious torturers. They smile and help in the presence of strangers, while alone with us, they delacerate and step on us, unknowingly attending to our moral purification. And in the same line, we find discarnate enemies attuned to the same mental level, persuading us in the criminality in which they themselves still persist. They lurk along our paths like criminal accomplices who cannot conform themselves with our wish to correct ourselves, restiging in 1,000 different ways the shadowy traps in which we may be caught in order to reabsorb their delusion or madness. Welcome your brothers of yesterday's moral misalignments in a spirit of peace and understanding. To accuse them would be tantamount to rubbing salt in their wounds. To bombard them with reprimands would be to induce them to damage their reputation even more. To be cruel in return would mean involving ourselves in greater culpability. To condemn them would be to curse ourselves, since they do more than following our steps, attracted by our own imperfections. Accept their insults and taunts, violence and contempt in a serene attitude, silent and serving, neither burning the embers of censure nor the bile of reprobation. Visible and invisible obsessors are our own deeds, thorns planted by our own hands. Address them thus, positive words and thoughts whenever necessary, but do not deny them patience, work, love, sacrifice, because only the strength of a noble example can lift and rebuild before the sun of the future. Breathing in and out, me too. This is not easy. But Emmanuel is clarifying something that Kardec inspired him to reveal to us. What is an obsessor first? He begins with the definition. Somebody who disturbs. The question for us, first and foremost, am I disturbing somebody? Am I an obsessor? Because if others are obsessors, too bad for them. But if we are disturbing, too bad for us. Because there is one law of action and reaction. How do I know if I'm disturbing? Yes, a mother who is imposing herself on the marriage of a daughter or of a son is disturbing. No, but I don't agree with my daughter's choice. Unless they are 4-year-olds, the mother is entitled to doing anything and everything. But if they are beyond 21, that is disturbance. That can be the beginning of an obsession. No, but I want to help my child. But you don't help by condemning. We don't help by imposing ourselves. Second, we can be disturbing when we go to a spiritist center, for example, and we don't agree with the directors, but we are not either a worker or a practitioner, or even if we are, we start doing these mental battles with the directors. The best thing we can do is pray, and if we cannot change, leave. Don't stay there, because then we're becoming an obsessor, disturbing the vibratory peace of that sacred temple. If I don't agree, for example, if I don't agree with somebody when I go to their house, I don't agree the way they wash the dishes. I don't agree with the way they clean, they do this, that, and the other. But do you live there? No, but I don't agree. But those mental darts are disturbing them because they have the right to do whatever they like. Right? So we need to ask ourselves, am I the one who disturbs? Because Emmanuel begins by defining it. The problem is when I become the one disturbing. For example, specifically in a mediumistic meeting. Yesterday we were at the Spirit Side of Virginia reminding everybody, all of us, the importance in our study session. We were being reminded by the studies that it's vital for us to practice this discipline of thinking, because for that meeting, what matters is thinking and feeling more than words and actions. If a spirit is being treated through a medium And the counselor is talking to them, and I am there to support. And instead of supporting the current, the energy, I am like not agreeing with the counselor, like shocked about what the spirits is saying. I'm not helping. And if I do this constantly and persistently, I am characterizing myself as a person who is disturbing. That's why Jesus never knocked at the door of the Pharisees to condemn them, to correct them. Why? Because then he would disturb their status quo. And Jesus cannot be characterized as an obsessor. That's why in Spiritism, we don't do meetings to talk about books that we're going to disagree. We don't talk about speakers that may be bad, blah, blah, blah. We don't do meetings like this. Why? Because that's going to disturb. And if I insist on that behavior, I become an obsessor. An inquisitor is an obsessor. The person, spirit incarnated and discarnated, that wears the robe of an authority to tell, to condemn, because that's what an inquisitor is. That person at that moment becomes an obsessor of other minds. No, but we have to keep everything pure. No, we don't. If Jesus never showed us that, we shouldn't do it either. So our conversation begins first and foremost with this definition. And we cannot forget, because usually we think of obsessors as somebody else who is obsessing us. The problem is if we're obsessing somebody. If we're disturbing somebody. And disturbing means, he says here, accusing, bombarding, being cruel, condemning. We don't. Bottom line, we create a mindset of non-violence. Vanessa, how can I engage in not being an obsessor, in not disturbing someone? Step number 1, Kardec says. In other words, from Jesus we learn, be non-violent. We were just doing the God at home here, and we were reading item 10, chapter 10 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. Be perfect, the individual in the world. And in the final part, the Spirit Protector said through Kardec in 1863, saying, not to Kardec, but to all of us, that we should think of God before we do anything. And ask ourselves if what we're doing is going to be opposite regarding the divine harmony. So we need to ask ourselves tonight, am I, as we are marching towards the end of a year, 2017, beginning a new year, what could be my best wish? To be more of peace and less of a disturbing factor. Wherever we are. disturbing in the sense of what? Creating this ill feeling. So he says to us, he who disturbs is almost always someone with whom we were deeply involved. And they came back demanding something because we messed up. We dropped the ball. But we were friends. We were playing ball together. We were like playing soccer. And suddenly I take the ball and throw on the head of the person. The person is hurt and I ran away. They find it and they're like, you. What are you doing? You're playing ball again? You're going to do that again? No, you will not. So I cannot be upset with that person who is trying to disturb me now. Because we were friends before. And we were not careful. For many lives, we cultivated relationships out of interest, out of conveniences, and we didn't cherish it. We didn't care for it, and people got hurt. And now they come back saying, you hurt me, I'm not going to let you hurt again. So, what do? He says that ill feeling is like the wine of applause that is turned into vinegar of criticism. That's why the people who potentially in our lives are going to hurt us are the ones that are closest to us. Because they know us. Because there is more room to create friction. Physically speaking, it's obvious. So some people are like, oh, I'm concerned about somebody who I met in the street and it's like evil eye. No. It happens in the closest relationships. But the question for us is, how can we recover from it? How can we repair it? How can we turn that situation into a good situation back for all of us? So Emmanuel, before he goes in deeper into this, he talks about patience. Pretty hard, but patience here doesn't mean wait. It means cultivation of peace. Peace. You remember the song, Peace in the World Begins with Me. When I so love, I know I'm truly happy. When we are kind to one another, you know true love is deeply in my heart. The time has come for living peace on earth. No one believes in the lack of love. Peace for peace, and peace generating patience, that inner peace. Oh, how do I do this? Mediumistic meetings. A group may go through a phase of spiritual attacks, on and off, and sometimes there are critical moments, and people usually like shooing the spirits, like, go to the light, go to the light. I mean, can you imagine somebody telling you and incarnate, go to the light? And you're like, what do you mean go to the light? I mean, go away. It's a kind way to say go away, but what matters is not the word. So I know many people who are like this. Take this spirit away. Send him to the light. But how can we send them to the light? You attracted the spirit. Like this case that happened in a spiritist center in Brazil. The woman was suffering obsession. She came to the center. And throughout spiritist meetings, these obsessions were happening, and the spirit was, counseled and shifted his heart. But then one day he came to the meeting and said, I can't move on. Why not? Because now she is imprisoning me. Why? Talk to her. So, another day after that meeting, the director talked to the lady who was coming to receive spiritual treatment and said, how are you feeling? Yeah, more or less. Why? Because, I just feel what the spirit was doing to me was not right. Yeah, the spirit was saying that you're not letting him go. Yeah, because I felt like he destroyed my life. Now I'm going to destroy his life by keeping him close to me. This is the level of ignorance. So we need to ask ourselves, or we should, how can I best help my case, other people's cases, turn it around? This obsession, it's not about shooing the spirits. It's not exorcism. We're not expelling the spirit saying, shoo, shoo, shoo. We're repeating purposefully, because that's what many people do. They shoo the spirits, and they are angry at this. You would be angry too if somebody turns to you like, you're bothering me, go away. And like, really? And depending on the level, we may not be happy. So what do we do? I remember when Carlos and I were flying in Brazil before Virginia was born. And in the airplane, we had the beautiful opportunity of flying next to more experienced man who was probably in his 70s. He was already a grandfather. And he revealed to us in our conversations that he was a spiritist. And he said that he was also a federal judge by profession. And out of the blue, I know it's not out of the blue, he was being used to teach us this beautiful lesson that we're passing on to you too. He said, throughout my experience in mediumistic meetings, I realize that the best way to help the spirit that is being obsessed is to educate ourselves, so we're freeing them up. Because they're stuck with us due to the glue of our imperfections. The minute our imperfections are changed, they have no reason to stay with us any longer. They get pretty upset with us when they see that we are that same old person as we were centuries ago. So that's why homework for us would be not only to ask ourselves if we are being an obsessor in somebody's lives, but also to ask ourselves what would be the plugs through which those minds are still harassing us. They're demanding, they are creditors. They're saying, I want to see you changed. Like the case of this mother who came to a spiritual treatment in our center years ago. Many years ago. The daughter was little, and the daughter was having lots of problems. In the mediumistic meeting, there was a spirit that revealed herself as being one that was there to make sure that that spirit that was connected to the body was animating the body of a little child, was making sure that that one wouldn't grow up and be as mischievous as she was when she was in another life. But she was disturbing. So we talked to her and said, we understand you, but what you're doing is creating more problems. What if you try helping her so she won't make a mistake again? Well, at the end of the day, we ended the meeting. Next day, the mother called and said, what happened? Because after she slept and woke up, she is a different child. That's how much we influence one another. It can change our behavior completely. So we need to ask ourselves. Because obsessors, maybe he's saying, reincarnated obsessors. Emmanuel is talking about a myth. People think that those who challenge us are only discarnated. And Emmanuel is saying, no. They may be well incarnated, reincarnated with us. But who are they? They may be our father, our mother, our husband, our wife, our children, or those who are our relatives, or who work with us. Hopefully not us, because we may be disturbing people's lives without noticing. And in the spiritist centers, we may be meeting those that are, we have animosity from the past, right? Teresa Castro is asking, so the obsessor actually had good intentions towards the little girl? Well, the good intention was to stop the little girl before she actually grew up and became a bad person. But the way she was imposing herself, that spirit, on the little girl, was creating more mess because her feelings were still of one who is holding grudges. So Teresa Castro, thank you for asking. Her case, she had the idea of not allowing that person to do the same mistake, but what was animating her to do it was the feeling of almost like a twisted revenge. Like she actually wanted the child to be so troubled that she would be a bad preteen, end up in the juvie, and then later a bad young adult, and get her into prisons, psychiatric hospitals, annulling a beautiful life. So part of it was like blocking, not to allow her to create problems. What was giving her fuel was kind of a revenge. So she characterized as an obsessor. Make sense? You know when people say, I want that guy in prison. Okay. But you don't need to feel hatred. Different things, right? It wasn't sincere per se. It was more like, you're right. And that's why Kardec says these obsessors can be quite deceiving. He talks about in that chapter, obsession. They come with these masks, and deep inside there are intentions. So the group has to be very well coordinated, not to fall trap to appearances. Right? Yes. Okay? So Emmanuel says, those reincarnated obsessors may be very close to us. And what do? They smile to others, but they torture us. They help strangers, but they delacerate us. They find discarnate enemies. We find discarnate enemies attuned to the same mental level, persuading us into crimes. There are many people who are under addiction out of spiritual revenge. Spirits that don't want them to progress. And say, yeah, they convince people. I'm going to give you an analogy. The strategy of the obsessors is like this. You are in the desert and they create a mirage. And they want you to walk through the desert, deep into it. And you're thinking, I'm going to find the oasis. When you get far away, the mirage is disrupted and you see yourself in the middle of nowhere. Dry lands. No help, no water, no food. Dies. People die. The person dies. Dies in the physical sense? No. Spiritually. Illusions. Obsessors are so skillful. When they really want to avenge, they create illusions of material life. Yes, promotions at work, more money, more income, easy life. And they're like, yeah, go for it. You deserve. You worked your whole life. And then people go. It's a mirage. The oasis, they think. And they go deep into it. When they are older, deep into the desert, older, the mirage is gone. They look around like, what have I done? I was selfish. I was egotistic. I didn't have empathy for people's needs. I only thought about my needs. By then, depression, cancer, because the level of the mental disturbances, like the mental thoughts, the vibratory conditions lower, get sick, and there are people who even discarnate in such conditions, and they find out in the afterlife that they were being assaulted by minds due to their invigilance. It happened to Marilyn Monroe, it happened to Michael Jackson, but it happens to ordinary people daily. And in spiritist centers, it happens daily. It's when you have a good group that is working well, and then the spirits start little by little whispering, don't dedicate yourself that much. What's the point? What's the point? Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Don't forget. Don't dedicate. Don't be a fanatic. And then they start withdrawing. Like, I'm working too much. I've heard people saying this. There are people who even say, I balance my life. How do you balance your life? I work at the Spiritist Center, but I have my personal life. Okay, but if the Spiritist Center needs you a little more, no, but I balance my life. And our lives are not that. And then we see great mediums, great practitioners withdrawing, falling in the traps of these illusions, such as, for example, when they hear voices of trading. You're working so hard. Look at your profession. You're not moving forward. You must be doing something wrong. And you are working so beautifully in the Spiritist Center. But you're going through a challenge at work, and they trick our minds saying, you're doing something wrong. Because if you're doing something right, you would be striving professionally. And I remember somebody asking Divaldo Franco, how come I dedicate my life helping others, doing spiritist works, but my professional life doesn't go to another level? And Divaldo explained to the person, remember the part of trials and atonements, expiations, resignation. It's our experience. I'm not bargaining with God. Oh God, do you see I'm helping others? Can you now help my bank account? You see I'm being a good medium, but can you please help a little bit my children so they get better grades and they get through college, so I'll be done and I'm not going to be concerned about them being useless? There are people who have those thoughts. Or for example, you see, I'm here 3 times a week in the Spiritist Center. Can you help my husband so he's happier, less depressed? Or can you help my wife be more of a believer? And we start mentally bargaining with God. And I know people, and I know several cases of people who didn't get the counter offer of God that they expected, and they quit it. Wonderful Spiritist practitioners, but deep inside they were bargaining with God. They were like, I am behaving like people in Christmas time. They think God has an elf that is watching us in the Spiritist Center and say, you see, I'm in the good list. So help me, give me a gift, a promotion, a better house, a better car, marriage, health, etc. And when they don't get it, they quit. And they don't know that on the behind the scenes, they were allowed to go through those issues to be stronger in their faith, to be more spiritual, truly more spiritual, and to stop this ancient movement of the soul, to be bargaining with God. I give you this, I offer, right? The famous offers. I offer you this, God. What are you going to give me back? Huh? And that's when we open wide doors to obsessors. They come to us, say, I'm going to play on that. Oh, they want a promotion? Don't worry. I'm going to show you there is a promotion. And I see Spiritist friends playing big time with this material life. And we think materialists are those who are not Spiritists. But a materialist person is someone, for example, who believes the matter and the ties of matter are more important. For example, if you believe, for example, people get married and unmarried. If that person is married to you, you give them the world. If they are not married to you, you'll take them out of your list. That's called materialism. If this child is of your blood tie, this child deserves your loving care. But if it's that child, the child of the neighbor, the child of somebody else, I don't care, it's not my child. No, everybody is important. This is to be materialistic. People think that materialism is about buying on Christmas Day or buying for Christmas. No, materialism is when we treat somebody right if they play by our cards. If they play in our tribe. And even in the Spiritist movement, we have tribes. And tribes with names. With names. And if you don't belong to the tribe, you're not important. That's called materialism. Because Jesus didn't belong to any tribe, to any association, to any federation, to any organization. He was free. And he taught us, it doesn't matter. You don't need to belong to a particular thing, to a particular temple, even a temple. If you want to do the good without a temple, please do so. But he respected the temples. He respected the organizations. And the obsessors like to play that game of inquisitors. We repeat it once again. Finally, he says what to do, because Kardec in item 249 of the Medium's book was talking about means of combating obsession. This obsession, which is this obsession is a term that was coined by André Luiz in his books through Chico Xavier. There is even a book named This Obsession. It's already in English. And he talks about the format of the meaning of this obsession. In other words, rescue work. How do we work on this obsession? He says, first, welcome the brothers, those who were friends of ours and now are not friends any longer because they feel we owe them something. So he says, welcome them in the spirit of peace and understanding. Is it easy? No, not at all. Do you think it is easy? No, I don't think so. It is hard. It is hard. It is very hard. But we have a direction now. We identify there's somebody who is disturbing us, incarnated, discarnated. What do? Don't shoot them. He's saying, don't shoot them. Don't accuse them, because if we do, we're just making it worse. Don't bombard them with reprimands, because it's going to induce them to be even worse. Like parents to children, you amount to nothing, and we're pushing them to the abyss or nothing. Because the voice of parents is powerful. To be cruel to them is a no-no. So, like the woman, now I want to imprison this discarnate obsessor because he destroyed my life, now I want to destroy his life. So to avenge them is a no-no, because then we're going to create karma. He says greater culpability, action and reaction. To condemn the obsessors would be to curse ourselves. Why? Because they are attracted by our imperfections. So what are the imperfections that potentially are becoming outlets for these obsessors? For example, vanity. For me, vanity. So what can I do to overcome my vanity? Because that's what they are gambling on. They're like, today I bet Vanessa is going to invest more on her vanity. You see, I'm going to push this button. Boom, she fell again. And they're bad. Yay, I got 20 bucks. That's pretty much how it is. They team up because there's not an obsessor that works alone. André Luiz shows it to us in all of his books. Read Just Liberation or Action and Reaction, and you're going to see how they team up. Yeah, that's how it is. And to accept their insults, their taunts, their violence, their contempt with serenity. That's a goal, friends. That's a goal to be achieved. To accept with serenity. How? Looking at them and saying, yeah, I attracted them. Why do they persecute me? Because if they didn't, they wouldn't think that much of you. But it's the love that was spoiled. It's the other side of the coin. Love, hate. Love, hate. There's hate. Turn it around. Love. Love is spoiled. Hate. How do we turn it back? Send love. Saying, I love you. Try it. Meaning it. Especially the incarnated ones. Especially. And he says here, accept with silence, serving. Visible and invisible obsessors are our own deeds, thorns planted by our own hands. And they are good at pushing us away from good service because they don't want us to be happy. And they create commotions in the center, the spiritist center where you're in. It's one of the main strategies of obsessors. They make you feel uncomfortable and you're out, but you're not out to do good deeds. You're out annulled. You're not doing anything in that regard. If you are a spiritist, your charitable action is related to the spiritist practice. Because if you don't do it, who will in this world? And there are people who are dropping their spiritist practices because they think that giving food to the homeless is more important than helping the spiritual homeless, the obsessed spirits that are in need of help in a mediumistic meeting. Sincerely, we're going to help humanity a lot more if we study Spiritism and practice Spiritism with devotion. And then we're going to be helping those whom nobody helps. The discarnates, the billions, the 2/3 of inhabitants of the earth that are wandering around and have no help whatsoever because people forget them. Watch the movie Coco. Yeah, figuratively speaking, it talks about how discarnates are put aside by the incarnate realm. So when you remember them and keep sending them good things and help them in their difficulties in true spiritist disobsession meetings, we're helping humanity, decompressing the level of ignorance and disturbance in the world. It's a leap of evolution. So that's why we are united here intercontinentally every night at 11 p.m. Time has come. We really need to be aware that Spiritism is a treasure and we can help the homeless, we can help people in nursing homes, in shelters, anywhere. But we cannot lose sight that of all things, besides improving ourselves, what God is counting on us is to give a hand to those who are being eaten up every day by anger, by grudges that they are holding for centuries. And once we are in a mediumistic meeting, somebody can talk to them through a medium. They can vent, relieve themselves of those grudges, and listen to a different thing other than hatred and say, you are loved. Look around. Your loved ones are waiting for you. And usually the mother of those spirits are allowed to show themselves up, to say to them, I've been waiting for you. Come on. Stop this vengeance. You deserve better. You're loved. You're a child of God. Read the book Liberation. I've seen it personally in many meetings. And in the books by several mediums, several spirits through several mediums, reporting the same cases since Kardec's time. So what can we do best today? Help materially, but especially spiritually. Because Spiritism is the light of discernment. The light of discernment, said Casimiro Cunha in Drops of Light, we've studied already. Said Umberto de Campos in the book Among Brothers of Other Lands, in the parable of the talents that were paraphrased in one of the chapters. And Emmanuel repeats it to us all along. What can we do to help the world? No, it's not to go to Africa, to Asia. Yes, you can help, but the best way to help is to stay where you are, devote yourself with your group, form a solid group that is trained and committed to help those who are disturbed, disturbing others. Nobody disturbs anybody without being disturbed first. Compassion. The discarnate spirits who obsess, as Jesus says, don't know what they're doing. The incarnated obsessors don't know what they're doing. Hopefully, we know better and we're not disturbing. Especially the works of higher level. So that's why Emmanuel wraps up saying, address this spirit. So talk to them with positive words. Don't shoo them. And do not deny your patience, your work, your love, your sacrifice. Because only the strength of a noble example can lift and rebuild before the Son of the future. So he begins saying observe, and he ends by talking about hope. The Son of the future. What is the Son of the future? The gospel in our lives. The good news. Inevitably, there is always hope. Yes, today may be crushing us. The persecutions of those whom we hurt. And we say, oh God, give us endurance and resilience to change ourselves so we can free them up. When we change ourselves, when we work on our imperfections, when we improve ourselves, we free them up. They look at us like the iron mask, the spirit nicknamed by Divaldo Franco, a spirit that persecuted Divaldo for 30 years. 30 years. Creating all the different difficult conditions for Divaldo Franco. And one day, how did it end? The persecution. 30 years. One day, somebody knocked at Divaldo Franco's Mansion of the Way in the middle of the night. And this woman had a baby in her arms. And they called Divaldo. Divaldo came up and the woman said, I have this child, but I cannot care for her. Please take her. And Divaldo was like, but we don't have any spot for her here. We're full capacity. But she said, please. Divaldo looked at the little girl. She was ugly. The ants had eaten up her lips, her nose. But Divaldo looked with so much compassion. He took her to his arms and said, I will. Go in peace because we'll take care of your daughter. And then suddenly he saw the iron mask spirit that used to obsess him for 30 years in front of him. And the spirit asking him, "You're going to take care of this girl?" He said, "Yes, I will." "Do you love her?" And Divaldo said, "Not yet, but I will learn." Divaldo was so sincere, so open to that new loving experience, that the spirit started crying out of being moved by Divaldo and said, "Okay, today you prove to me that you're changed, because this baby is the reincarnation of my mother. The mother of this obsessor reincarnated in extreme conditions, and Divaldo receiving her in the arms. Love, that's why Emmanuel is saying, only the strength of a noble example can lift and rebuild before the sun of the future. Without charity, there's no salvation. So let's go for the extra mile. Divaldo walked his extra mile, and he got it. He freed that spirit. How about us? What are we gonna do, friends? Let us meditate. I'm gonna say hi to the community before we say the final words and engage into the teaser for the next chapter. Right? Vandalci Prezia, thank you for being with us from British Columbia, Vancouver. She says, totally agree. We're put to spread spiritism and help souls incarnate this kind first thing in this North Hemisphere. Thank you. You're right. Right, Rihanna. Beautiful Rihanna. Keep it up. Keep it up. Every day I see you, Rihanna, doing the live on this spiritist books. I don't understand the language you're bringing it about, but I say God bless her. Oh, Jesus, bless South Africa. Bless our Rihanna, our Nico, for the beautiful works. Let's keep aiming the sun of the future. Right, Rihanna? Adeus, son. Our dear friend. How are you? Always this network of love, huh, Dilson? Lívia Moraes, beautiful Lívia Moraes, so dedicated. Rafael Medeiros, our friend of the heart. Rafael. Paula, beautiful Paula, how are you? Cesa, how are you? Cynthia Peoples, it's good to have you here. Rafael Medeiros is today working in Mexico. Mamma mia, Rafael. God bless you. And Lisa Teles, how are you? Angelita, advocating the U.S., coordinating the efforts for Fraternity Without Borders. Right? We need to help. FraternityWithoutBorders.org. Selma Brasil, how are you? Renata Cassadei, how are you? Pérola Bronze, how are you? Teresa Catapano. Nora Brazil, thank you for the beautiful heart. Patricia, beautiful hug to you. And Tiago, he's coming back, right? He's back. Teresa Castro, Nina Dui, Célia Lancaster, how are you? Lu Saboia, how are you? Emmanuel Desson, thank you for the blessings, Emmanuel. Julija, beautiful Julija. Rudy, how are you? Auri Alves, Fred Gouveia, friend of the heart. Abby, share. It's good to have you here, Abby. Rosalind Rosa, Maria. Whoa, it's good to have you here. Fabiola, how are you, Fabiola? We're missing you, Fabiola. Daniela de Souza, he's back. Welcome back, Tiago, from your beautiful concerts in China, our conductor. So, friends, I know the message today is intense. We're even sweating, but it's a good sweating of the soul. We pray to God that we can, summarizing, take home message. Obsessors are for my friends. 1. 2, we don't want to be obsessors disturbing others. 3, we need to observe that there are incarnates and discarnates who are obsessors. What do? Take it easy. Don't shoot them, he's saying. And what do? Let's learn to send them positive thoughts and words. Be patient and visualize that they need our good example to change their hearts. What are we going to do tomorrow when we come back? God willing, we'll be back for chapter 24. Chapter 24 is an affirmation. Emmanuel says, you allege. Who, me? Not me, then who? I don't know. Let's come back tomorrow and see. He says here, you allege, and he has a list of things that we may allege in our spiritual works, especially in mediumship. So, as a teaser, okay, he says, you allege that no one explains to you the process by which souls are nourished with subtle fluids, blah, blah, blah. And he says, do not depend on information from others for help. What is Emmanuel saying here? It's a teaser. Come back and we'll find out tomorrow. One thing we know, he's going to unveil something we've never thought in our lives. So let's learn with these wise spirits together in this beautiful earthly classroom that we're here building together at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Big hug to you, friend. And let us cultivate affections new and old. Thank you, Rihanna, for your beautiful presence. Many blessings, friends.